I'm so scared right now. I just found out I'm having a baby.
Hey, look at me.
No one in Willowbrook expected Ethan Hayes to walk back into town, and no one expected him to walk into her life, least of all Anna Montgomery. But the night she called him, her voice shaking softly through the phone, something inside him told him this wasn't just another favor. Something was wrong. Anna was 35, graceful in a quiet, grown woman way, while Ethan, 26, restless, and carrying the kind of past that people whispered about, had
Daniel
returned
isn't just
only
my
to
boss,
settle his late
he's my
father's
ex-husband.
affairs. He planned to leave again as soon as the paperwork was done. The last thing on his mind was getting tangled in someone else's mess. But the moment she asked, "Can you be my date tomorrow night?" he felt a pull he couldn't explain. When he showed up at her house the next evening, he expected awkward small talk, maybe a quick rehearsal of whatever story she needed him to play along with. Instead, he found her standing in the doorway, her eyes tired and her hands nervously twisting a silver ring. She tried to smile, but it looked like it hurt. "Thank you for coming," she said, her voice softer than he remembered. He stepped inside, noticing how spotless the place was, too spotless, as if she wanted to erase any trace of her real life before he saw it. She smoothed the skirt of her navy dress, but it didn't stop her hands from trembling. "So," he said gently, "who exactly am I pretending to be tonight?" She hesitated. That should have been his first warning. "We're attending my company's fundraiser dinner," she finally answered. "My boss, he's been intrusive. I told him I was seeing someone so he would back off. And now he wants to meet you." Ethan raised a brow. "You needed a fake boyfriend to stop your boss?" Her eyes flicked away. "He doesn't listen when I ask him to stop. He only listens when he thinks someone else is involved." There was something in her tone, a crack, small but real. Something happened. Something she didn't want to say. He nodded. "Okay, I'll play the part." Relief washed across her face, but it lasted only a second before she rushed to grab her bag. "Good. We should go." The hotel ballroom was crowded, glittering with chandeliers and too much expensive perfume. Anna stayed close to Ethan, her hand looping through his arm like she was clinging to it for steadiness. Her boss, Daniel Clark, a man in his 40s with a sharp smile and a colder stare, spotted them almost immediately. "So this is the boyfriend," Daniel said, extending his hand toward Ethan with a tight grin. "Funny, Anna never mentioned you before." "That's because I'm private," Ethan replied evenly, shaking his hand. "And protective." Daniel's eyes flickered, just slightly, before he said, "Of course." The rest of the evening was a blur of polite conversations and fake smiles. But Ethan noticed the way Daniel watched Anna, even when she wasn't looking. It wasn't admiration. It was possession. It made Ethan's jaw tighten. During dinner, Anna excused herself, whispering that she needed some air. When she didn't return after 10 minutes, Ethan's unease grew. He stepped out to the hallway and heard voices around the corner. Daniel's voice. "I told you, Anna. We're not finished. Don't think bringing some guy here changes anything." Ethan stepped closer, quiet, deliberate. Anna's voice came next, thin and unsteady. "Please, Daniel, don't do this." Daniel laughed quietly. "You think anyone will believe your story? You think?" Ethan moved before he even thought about it. When he appeared in the corridor, Daniel froze. Anna's eyes widened, not with fear this time, but with something else. Something like desperation. But it wasn't the confrontation that stunned Ethan. It was what Anna blurted out the moment she saw him. "Ethan, I didn't tell you everything. There's something you need to know." Her voice trembled. And then she said the secret that changed everything. "Daniel isn't just my boss, he's my ex-husband." For a moment, Ethan didn't move. The hotel hallway fell silent around them, thick with something cold and dangerous. Anna's words hung in the air like a confession she'd been holding in for years. Daniel's smirk told Ethan one thing. He enjoyed watching her fall apart. Ethan stepped closer to her, his voice low. "Ex-husband." Anna swallowed hard. "I didn't know he'd be here tonight. He wasn't supposed to come. I didn't want you involved in this." Daniel chuckled under his breath. "Involved in what, Anna? Your little performance? You've always been dramatic." Ethan's jaw clenched. The man had a way of talking that made Ethan feel like he was standing too close to a snake. Back off, he said, keeping his tone steady. She asked you to leave her alone. Daniel shrugged. We have history. You wouldn't understand. Anna flinched at the word history. And that was when Ethan noticed the smallest details. The way she stood stiffly against the wall. The way she kept one arm protectively across her stomach as if shielding something fragile inside her. This wasn't simple heartbreak. This was fear, old, buried, and trembling. Ethan positioned himself between them. She doesn't want you near her. That's all that matters. Daniel's eyes darkened. You think she told you the truth? She hides things. She always has. Anna stiffened. Ethan reached for her hand, grounding her with a gentle squeeze. Let's go, he said softly. But Daniel stepped forward. Anna, tell him. Tell him why you really left. Her breath hitched. Ethan turned to her, waiting, not demanding, but offering space. She closed her eyes like the truth itself was painful. I left because he wasn't the man everyone thought he was, she whispered. He would show one face to the world and a different one at home. And I stayed for years because I thought I could change him. Daniel scoffed. You left because you're weak. You always were. Something in Ethan snapped. Not anger, but
I won't let
protectiveness,
anything happen to you.
powerful and instinctive.
I promise.
He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Walk away, he said, staring Daniel down. Before you say something you can't take back. Daniel held his stare for a long, cold moment, then sneered and stepped aside. Anna's shoulders dropped as if she'd been holding her breath for years. Ethan guided her out of the hallway, far from Daniel's shadow, until they reached the quiet terrace outside the ballroom. The night air was cool, brushing across her face like a soft apology. She leaned against the railing, rubbing her hands together. I'm sorry, she whispered. I should have told you. I didn't want you to think I was dragging you into something ugly. Ethan stood beside her, close but not crowding her. You don't owe me anything, Anna. But you're not alone tonight. Her eyes glistened. You don't understand. Daniel, he doesn't let go. Even after the divorce, he found ways to reach me. Messages. Showing up at places I'd go. Nothing that could be proven. Nothing anyone would take seriously. So when you asked me to be your date, Ethan said slowly, it wasn't just to get him off your back at work. Anna looked down. I thought if he saw me with someone else, maybe he'd finally stop. Maybe he'd believe I'd moved on. Ethan took a step closer. Anna, what are you most afraid of? Her voice broke. That he'll take everything from me again, including the one thing he still doesn't know about. Ethan froze. What thing? Her eyes lifted to his, filled with an emotion he couldn't name. I didn't just leave him, she said quietly. I left because I discovered something right before the divorce. Something that made me run. He waited. I'm pregnant, she whispered. And he doesn't know. The world seemed to still around them. And suddenly, Ethan realized this was no longer a fake date. This was a woman fighting to protect her future. For a long moment, Ethan couldn't speak. The night air seemed to thicken around them, turning every sound distant. Anna stood still, her arms folded tightly across her stomach, as if she feared the truth would slip out and change everything all over again. When did you find out? He finally asked, his voice gentle. 2 weeks before I left him, she whispered. I was scared, Ethan. Not of the pregnancy. Of him. I knew he'd try to control everything. I knew he'd claim the baby just to keep me in his world. I couldn't let that happen. She breathed shakily, her fingers trembling on the railing. So I packed a bag and disappeared. I didn't tell anyone. I changed jobs, changed addresses, did everything I could to stay out of his reach. But he kept finding ways to push his way back in. Ethan stepped closer, feeling an ache in his chest. And tonight, you thought he'd see you with someone else and finally move on. I hoped, she said, her voice breaking. I never expected him to show up here. I thought I had more time. Ethan saw the fear in her eyes. Fear not for herself, but for the tiny life she was protecting. And something inside him shifted, something strong and unshakable. He had always lived his life running from things. But in this moment, he didn't want to run. He wanted to stay. Anna wiped at her eyes, embarrassed. I'm sorry. You didn't sign up for this. I signed up to help you, he said softly. And I'm still here. She looked up at him, her breath catching, as if those words meant more to her than she could admit. Before either of them could say more, the terrace door opened. Ethan turned quickly, instinct tightening his muscles. But it wasn't Daniel. It was a hotel staff member, briefly searching for someone before moving on. Still, the moment reminded Anna how close danger felt. I should go home, she whispered. I don't want a scene. And I definitely don't want him near me again tonight. I'll take you, Ethan said immediately. She hesitated, then nodded. The drive to her house was quiet, but not uncomfortable. Anna rested her hand over her stomach, almost unconsciously. Ethan noticed. Something warm spread through him. Protective, fierce, unexpected. When they reached her driveway, she didn't get out right away. The porch light painted her face in soft gold, and she looked at Ethan as if searching for something in his expression. I don't expect anything from you, she said quietly. I don't want to put you at risk. You're not putting me at risk, he replied. But you shouldn't deal with this alone. Her eyes shone with emotion. I don't know what happens now. Ethan took a breath. Whatever happens, I'll help you. Whether that means pretending to be your boyfriend a little longer, or just being someone you can call when things get hard. You choose. Her lips trembled. Why are you being so kind to me? Because someone should be, he said simply. Anna looked down, and then, surprising both of them, she leaned her head gently against his shoulder. For a moment, the world felt still, safe. But that moment shattered when headlights swept across the driveway. A black sedan slowed in front of her house. Ethan's body tensed instantly. Anna's breath caught. No, he wouldn't. The sedan paused, watched, then sped away. Ethan's hand closed around hers. He's testing your boundaries, he said quietly. But he won't break them. Anna looked at him with trembling hope. You won't let him, will you? No, Ethan said, his voice firm. I won't. She stepped back, studying him for a long second. And then she spoke words that surprised even her. Stay with me tonight? Just until I feel safe again. Ethan nodded without hesitation. I'll stay. Inside the quiet warmth of her home, the fear faded piece by piece. And as Anna finally let herself breathe, Ethan realized the truth. This wasn't a fake date anymore. This was the beginning of something real. Something worth fighting for.
बाकी जो बातें उस बोतल प्ले से रही है कि वो दूसरे लेके से कि इसका कुरियर लिंक करती है छेदे की इस दिन की